What? Lucky Montana. Lucky Montana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really, really good, Lucky Montana. Catching everybody as they are in Johannesburg and taking flights out to wherever they need to be. And so we'll use it as a train. You see what I did there, Lucky Montana? Train in the station.
That's the right analogy.
Yeah, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm surviving. Yeah.
What does surviving mean, Lucky Montana?
Well, doing many things, writing, and trying to survive in many ways. You know. I know people say it's cold outside somewhere, but the diverse nature of our own society tells you, you'll survive.
Yeah. Lucky Montana, let me start in a weird place, right? Talking about survival. And of course, Lucky Montana, let me say congratulations. One of the MPs being sworn in the other day.
Thank you.
And for MKP. And I'll get into some of that just behind the scenes stuff. But talking about surviving out there, PRASA CEO, 2010, 2015?
2009 until 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 2009 to 2016.
2015.
2015.
Yeah.
After 2015, how does one survive? Does one survive on, because then it was Lucky Montana out there, but not Lucky Montana, has been appointed anywhere. That particular headline was missing. What does one do, Lucky Montana, when people say it's cold out there, but, seemingly it's not cold out there? What have you been doing?
Well, I think the first thing, you need to be self-assured. When people make noise and in Sepedi, when al mashata, sometimes, when I remember during that period, when I went home, my mom would look at me, trying to ascertain, is this my son that they were talking about? Because there was a difference. So a huge difference between what she knew, the son she brought up, and what she was reading. I was also asking myself, are they really talking about me? But look, I knew that we're on the right side of history. Fidel Castro's thing, history will absolve me. So we're not worried because, legs have got short, lies have got short legs. People can say, repeat, sometimes bang tables. But I've always said darkness will not thrive over light. And in South Africa of today, ask many migrants or many of our people here in Johannesburg. They don't live in fancy houses. They don't have a decent job, but they survive. So there's a lot of birds and pigeons here. You just have to hit one with your stick.
You have to look for your birds and pigeons.
And you cook pap, you eat, you life proceed. And I think the man upstairs has been kind. Despite all the challenges, I'm here, I'm surviving. I feel strong. I wouldn't say I've been vindicated because there was nothing to defend. There was nothing to explain in the first place. So yes, I'm there with MK. I read in the newspapers that the only reason these guys agreed to go with Zuma is because they were hungry, and I just laugh. So yes, we live in interesting times.
Let me ask you this, Lucky Montana, because of the political space, right? People have an understanding of Lucky Montana as the PRASA CEO, and there was no connotation at that particular point to being an ANC member. But one sometimes makes an assumption of a lot of people who have come over time as being within the ranks of the ANC. And then obviously now there's MK. Would you have been a member of the ANC, and would you have now ditched that particular political party to become a member of MK at some point? I'm just asking. Or is it something whereby, one argues and says, no, neutrality. When you are in the SOEs, you are whatever. But realistically, people engage in the political space. Would you have been a member of the ANC at one time, and you are no longer a member of the ANC, and you are now an MK member?
I joined politics at the age of 14. I was a student at Mamelodi High School. I was a member of the Congress of South African Students, COSAS. I was active. At that time, I was not a member of the ANC. So I'm part of a generation of youth, of students. When Oliver Tambo said, make the country ungovernable and render apartheid unworkable. We were that generation. So I was shaped by those conditions in the 80s. In 1985, there was a partial state of emergency. Mamelodi was one of the townships affected by that. In 1986, there was a full-blown state of emergency by P.W. Botha. And COSAS, among other organizations, was banned. And subsequent to that, the political leadership asked me in 1986 to say, we've got to revive student organization. And there was an organization called the Mamelodi Student Congress, MASCO we called it. Many of its members were either in prison or on the run from the police. So I was charged with the responsibility to coordinate the revival of political organization among students. It was only in 1987 that I came into direct contact with the African National Congress, drawn into its underground network. And since then, I've never looked back. I've been with the ANC, but I never left the ANC. The ANC left me. I'm where I am. I'm not standing on shifting grounds. But when in 2004, I made a decision in consultation with the political leadership that, look, you've gone for training, we've sent you all over. We think you must focus on the public service. So you don't stand for politics. You don't stand for. You're not vying for any position. Your job is to serve the people of South Africa. So I didn't start at PRASA. I started in the Department of Economic Affairs in the Western Cape in 1994. Moved to the Department of Public Works. Then I was in the Department of Public Enterprises, where I was involved in coordinating and negotiating with unions on the restructuring of key public entities, Eskom, Transnet, Dinel, Safcol. That was my work between 1999 and 2004. And then I went to the Department of Transport, and there I dealt with many things. I was responsible for public transport. So the national strategy on public transport was driven by me. I had to revise the taxi recapitalization program. The vehicles that we see on our roads today was part of the work that I was doing. The quantums, the replacement of the old CIRs. I championed that work, and I had to pay the price because as a civil servant, or rather as a public servant, I was chased with AK-47s. My house was attacked. And I remember government saying, we can't guarantee your safety. And I decided to leave. But during that time, I was also on the board of the South African Rail Commuter Corporation, the predecessor to PRASA. And cabinet that appointed me as the CEO of that Rail Commuter Corporation. And then later on, I was tasked to consolidate all passenger entities into one. And that was a decision made by cabinet in 2004. It culminated in almost for I would say a period of 5 years. We worked with trade unions, we worked with employees to bring all these entities together. And we formed PRASA in March 2009. And it surprised me, Denzel, when I hear people say, there was PRASA out there. People out there make noise. There was PRASA, and Montana came to destroy it. There was no PRASA in this country. I was charged by the leadership of our country that we are taking a policy direction that will consolidate and create a passenger services entity reporting to the Minister of Transport. You drive that process. The result of that is PRASA as we know it, as we knew it before it was destroyed, of course, recently. The second thing was the new factory for new trains that we built in Ekurhuleni and Danata. And so we're the first guys to build a manufacturing plant in line with what I studied over the years on industrial policy. How do you make industries work? And of course, most importantly, the buying of the new blue trains that we see, the beautiful trains that we saw people going to the rugby game on Saturday.
Gaten McKenzie was on one.
Was on one. That train, people can say as many. I had a team, but from as far back as 2004, I championed the replacement of the train. So during that time, even though I have the background of the ANC, in the ANC, I focus on being a public servant. And as I said, in 2015, the ANC decided to leave me, and they left me where I was. Until of course, the MK said, let's utilize your experience and skills in the country.
What was the one thing that you would suggest in your head that was when the ANC, as you put it, left you? What was the crux of it? You know, you talk of the historical context, the political context, the life before PRASA and all of those particular things. What was it then where the ANC decides we don't need Lucky Montana anymore? As you say, the ANC left you. You didn't leave the ANC. What was that one thing that you could define? Or was it just they just didn't like Lucky Montana, the person? Because that would not probably be it. What do you put it down to if you could select one thing?
Well, I think I would say that for me, I didn't take to heart the betrayal. When in 2015, or rather in August 2015, I'd resigned already from PRASA. The public protector had issued a statement, a report. And this report was a very clumsy report. But I think certain groups in the ANC used it because the big fight was about the new trains that we bought. They weren't happy with the trains because certain groupings were not part of the 53 billion rand program to buy new trains. So when the report came, they made a lot of noise. The ANC, I remember the statement in the ANC drafted by Zizi Kodwa said, there must be strong action against those who are involved in corruption. The public protector report mentioned identified a lot of weaknesses, but nowhere in the reports in a report derailed has she identified even corruption. In fact, she recommended that there should be what you call forensic investigations to determine whether to go to the root of some of the problems that were there.
Then I have to ask you this, Lucky, at this point. The 53 billion rand deal then, you say some people were not happy that they were not part of, the involvement in that particular place. Is there a suggestion that people were, but others did not like, but that there was within that particular 53 billion rand deal an element where people would have gained, some people would have gained? I would think that if some people would be unhappy, some people would have been very happy. Is there a suggestion that some people would have been very happy and that some people made a lot of money? Well,
I'm saying that directly. In fact, in a book that I'm writing on this issue, and I've been writing for a while, I go into details about who got happy and who was unhappy. But when you lead institutions, and I think part of the benefit of being involved in political organizations from that young age is that you have the courage to act. That is the title of the book, The Courage to Act, because I had to I trampled on the toes of very powerful people who demanded and insisted that we should cancel the train contract. And I said the impact I said the country invested in the How train, but we said that train is for people on the move, quote unquote. It was important for the country to invest and replace the old metro rail trains with modern trains that you saw Minister Mackenzie traveling on. And I called that the people's train, because that would be a train that is affordable to the masses of our own people, that someone who earns less than 3,500 or 800 will be able to get onto that train. This is a train that connects our people, our townships, into economic centers. So I made a choice, and people were unhappy. I remember when the program was finally gazetted, against strong resistance within government. I addressed our employees and said, the job has been done. The trains are here. This contract is irreversible. But I know that I've trampled on the toes of the most powerful, and they're gonna go after me. And they did. But I knew that all the, what is it called? The word I wanted to use. They created all these stories, but they couldn't sustain them. And today they're celebrating the very trains that I delivered for South Africa. So for me, I look at this, when I see these trains every time, and there's a bridge in Pretoria, in next to Loftus Stadium. So every time I pass, for some reason, our new train passes in front of me. And I just smile, and I said, at least my children and my grandchildren will know that I've made a contribution, however small it is. And those trains are designed to serve our country for the next 40 years at least. And if they are well maintained and with proper investment, you can extend their life for 55 years. So it's an investment. So probably when the last train is delivered, I think that my kids will be working, and I'm hoping, and my dream is to see my children traveling on the very trains that I've dedicated my time to delivering to the people of South Africa.
How does MK happen?
For me,
yeah.
Look, I think for me, I've always been a big fan of Jacob Zuma. And I've always said to my friends in the media that many of them do not understand Zuma. And if you look at Zuma with only a naked eye, which means from a physical point of view, you will not understand it. But if you look at our politics and the direction our country is taking, also from a deep spiritual approach, you'll understand Zuma. And when he launched Mkhonto weSizwe, he did it on the 16th of December. Now, this day is significant in the history of our country. When we state 1838, what we call the Battle of Blood River, or as they say it in Sizulu, the Battle of Engome. Zuma chose that day, and when Mandela and them launched Mkhonto weSizwe, it was also on the 16th of December. On the 16th of December 2023, Zuma made something quite significant, because he was through formation of Mkhonto weSizwe, or when he said, I'm not gonna vote for the ANC, I'm gonna vote for MK. He opened a new page in our country, because even though we've had 30 years of democracy, we had the historic breakthrough of 1994. Brian Molefe spoke at length this morning with your colleague TT, and said the economic structure has not changed. The accumulation path of colonialism and capitalism remains intact. Mkhonto weSizwe has given hope to our people. Jacob Zuma has had the courage to show the masses of our own people that they can change their own lives. Now, that of course was the first step. I remember in many of the WhatsApp groupings, there were people hailing insults, were angry at Jacob Zuma. And I warned them, you are ignoring Zuma at your own peril. Because Zuma can study the conditions of the people. He's not only their teacher, but he's a good student of the masses. He can, because of his dynamic links with the people, he understands where they are. When he said, I'm not going to vote for the ANC, I'm going to go, it was a major statement. The election results of May 29 were a clear demonstration that the masses are never wrong. That most of them voted for MK, they left the ANC to vote from Mkhonto Sizwe. But many more didn't vote, they actually stayed away because they said, we keep on voting.
Hence the 42%.
Well, people talk about the ANC getting 40%. Denzel, the ANC got 39.7. You remember when we were at school and we were doing this number in maths, they say, can you round it up to the nearest number?
Yeah.
So that's why the ANC get 40%.
40%.
But in real terms, it got 39.7%. So when we round it up, now all opposition parties were saying in the country want to bring the ANC below 50%. And all of them, if you look at the numbers, you analyze the election results, all of them failed. It was only Jacob Zuma who had that dynamic links with the people, and it conveyed their message to the nation that the people said, we need a new beginning. Yes, we must build on the.
Because if you take MK's numbers and you add them to the ANC, we back with the ANC
about 55, 50.
That's where the ANC would have been 56%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you are ignoring Zuma at your own peril.
Well, the ANC hasn't, because Fikile Mbulula says Jacob Zuma is the reason the ANC is at 40%.
No. But he said it after the elections. I think when they had their own workshop, I think the SG of the ANC was. For the first time, he made that statement. But before that, they thought, I think that they didn't appreciate the extent to which they're detached from the sentiments on the ground. And this is driven by quite a number of factors, ranging from electricity to pala, and most importantly, of course, the fact that they saw their government abandoning them in favor of big capital, taking policy positions, making interventions that favors the ruling white elite, in fact. And most of them said, we'll go with Zuma, with MK. And some say, well, we won't even go to the polls and vote. And I think that they should, the ANC, in my view, and I'm not here to talk about the ANC, wouldn't ignore that objective fact. They are putting it in many different ways. I've heard Nomvula Mokonyane saying that Zuma's statement that the ANC of Ramaphosa, quote unquote, hurt us in a big way. So MK, some people think is going to be like Cope, and others it will disappear. I think that they're not reading our country in a proper way. I think that MK will keep on growing, will become the force, and I think it will restore the hope of our own people. It will recapture that moment, when we celebrated, we had high hopes about the future of our own country, that the black masses will be liberated. MK is that vehicle. And yes, there may be people who dream that it will disappear. And I'll tell you, Denzel, that this is a force that is going to change the lives of our own people moving forward.
Does anybody still call you Tsepo?
Yes. No. They are. I always heard, and I think I hope at home they are not going to be upset. I used to use the name Lucky. Yeah. And even when I was playing football, I was called Lucky. And every time they ask me, when do you use the name Tsepo? Yeah. I said no, and I'll joke and say, those who like me, who know me, call me Lucky. But those who love me, call me Tsepo. And I would leave it at that, Denzel.
Let's leave it at that. It is 10 o'clock. Lucky Montana, MK, being sworn in the other day with a range of other political leaders, talking about, of course, the journey that he's had in the political space. Also, just context to that. And then MK. Lucky Montana, You do live in and around Gauteng, right?
Indeed, yeah.
I'm going to ask that because we've snuck you in and we've engaged, and you're somebody who's in and out, and we've taken advantage of the conversation we can have at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think we need to have a much bigger, broader platform. So
Absolutely.
I'd love to put it to you that says the next time when you are not dealing or you are done with the parliamentary processes and you're back in town,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love for you to occupy the seat, and then let's start at the beginning and do the convo to the end.
Thank you. I would accept that. Thank
Lucky
you.
Montana talking to us there about the journey of himself, now a new journey in MK.